He says that Russia brazenly interfered in the U.S. election. John Brennan told lawmakers on the Hill today Russian officials may have successfully recruited aides from Donald Trump's campaign to help the Kremlin's efforts to influence last year's presidential election.
I encountered and am aware of information and intelligence that revealed contacts and interactions between Russian officials and U.S. persons involved in the Trump campaign.
Jane Torrance is deputy managing editor at the Weekly Standard. Jordan Fabian is the White House correspondent for the Hill. Thank you both for joining us. What do you make of what happened on the Hill today? What's your takeaway?
Well, the takeaway is difficult to see because there wasn't actually a lot of information specifically that came out. Now, what John Brennan said is that the Russians certainly tried to get in with the Trump campaign. They tried to make contacts. They tried, but we don't know what we don't know if that worked or not. And I think that's crucial to think about. I mean, yes, of course the Russians tried. Do we know if they did or not? Now, of course, President Trump has not helped matters by making himself look guilty. The other thing that came out today is that he asked some officials to publicly say that there was no evidence that his campaign had colluded with Russia. Well, given that, firing James Comey, he certainly tried to make himself look guilty. And there's still no evidence that's come out, but he, I think, is his own worst enemy in this case.
Guilty of what?
Well, guilty of colluding with Russians to try to affect the United States presidential campaign. Now, we know that we don't know that for sure, but intelligence agencies put it at a very, very high probability that Russia was responsible for the DNC email leaks that came out. They say that Russia's was actually as far back as 2015 looking to affect this presidential campaign.
Jordan?
Right. I mean, it was interesting, though, that John Brennan did come out and say that there were, in fact, these contacts that they've been talking about, that he had specific evidence that there were Trump associates in touch with Russian officials. Now, to Kelly's point, we don't know what that all means, but that is a stunning admission from a former CIA director. That's the first time that someone of that level has confirmed that in public. So it's just another indication that this probe is moving forward, especially now that it's in the hands of the special counsel, Robert Mueller, and President Trump reportedly looking into hiring an outside lawyer to handle that probe. So all of this is moving very fast now.
I got the impression, though, that today was just more drip, drip, okay? It was
right.
More of what we already know. No evidence that the Trump people reciprocated, that there was indeed collusion, right? And certainly no evidence of obstruction of justice.
And that would be the smoking gun,
right.
is the proof of collusion. The obstruction of justice question is a separate question. That's what Kelly was talking about. And, did President Trump try to call off James Comey from investigating Michael Flynn? Did he try to enlist top intelligence officials to put out information that suggests that he's not under investigation? If that is proven, that would be going down the road of obstruction of justice.
Well, what do your sources tell you? Okay, let's say the president did do all of these things, and a lot of instances he comes back and says, yeah, I did. But it turns out there's no collusion. Then does the special counsel or somebody still pursue a case of a potential obstruction of justice on the president's part if there's no collusion?
Well, it's possible depending on what President Trump knows and what his intent is. And that's one of the interesting things, is that in a case like this, they actually do look at intent, and it's crucial in deciding those things. Now, if nothing happened, it's hard to prove that he had the intent.
If there's intent but no action, there could still be a crime.
It can be, but I think it would be very difficult, because what was he intending to do? What was he intending to obstruct if there was no actual crime? And that's why, obviously this stuff's big, it's concerning, but that's why I sort of dislike all these comparisons with Watergate so far. Yeah, we know for a fact that President Nixon was trying to cover up an illegal act and used campaign funds to go after his enemies. We do not yet know if President Trump or anyone in his campaign did something like that.
Okay, Jordan, last word.
No, that's absolutely right. But it's, again, the pace at which this is accelerating, the fact that it's now in the hands of Robert Mueller, who's taking in his own staff, who's going to be spending more money on this investigation. I suspect we're going to be finding out a lot more about this quite soon.
And do you suspect also that a lot of people will be bypassing the committees, House, Senate, and just talking directly with the special counsel.
Yeah, the fact that there is a special counsel, I think, sidelines the congressional investigators for the most part. They could still hold public hearings and talk about it, but really this is now in the hands of Robert Mueller.
In terms of public appearances, are we not all just sitting on bated breath waiting for James Comey to appear, see what he has to say after the holiday?
We are, and we're wondering now if he actually will, because the latest we have heard is that Jason Chaffetz announced that Comey wants to talk to Mueller, the special counsel, before testifying. So it's possible that Mueller will tell him not to. And so we're all sort of waiting what's going to happen after Memorial Day.
Okay, all right. Going to be right back. Stay with us.